It's crooks versus robbers as Bill Paxton and Crocodile Dundee's ex-wife take a mega-church hostage, including crooked preachers Tim Curry and Annie Potts. In a wacky satire filled with splashy musical numbers, brutal violence, and the best green screen effects 1988 could afford. We watch Pass the Ammo, today on
The f*** is this?
preamble planned this time around, so I'll go straight into this one.
You've had weeks to think about this, Kaz.
Unless you have a soft opening you want to start us off with, Jameson.
A soft opening? No, I only do hard openings. Wait.
I don't know the difference. What's the difference?
A soft opening is
one more arduous to get through.
Yeah, a soft opening.
So it's like it pick up in the middle of conversation kind of thing?
Yeah, like this.
Or...
Like, we'll slowly fade in, and it'll just be, like a regular conversation that would just happen between three peers about any sort of thing that's going on right now. Is all like,
like
this
maybe
humorous...
how to start a podcast.
Yeah, this humorous thing happened to me at the...
Kaz and I have been wondering how to get that ball rolling for fucking 3 years now.
Yeah, you'd think we'd figure it out, but, that's a soft opening, and then an example of a hard opening is, welcome back, however you wish to self-identify, to The Fuck Is This, where we dive through DVD bins, sort through streaming apps to find the weird, the bizarre, and the unloved. I'm your host, Kaz Lesgard, and join me always is my co-host, Jameson Rafter.
How's it going, everybody?
That's the hard...
Woo! I liked the hard opening.
Yeah, we're all about the hard openings here, yeah.
Not suggestive at all.
Rock hard openings, all the way. That's our tagline. I don't know. We don't do catchphrases anymore because Jameson has outlawed catchphrases, so...
I didn't outlaw them, I just had enough of them.
What was the one that broke the camel's back? What was the worst catchphrase?
That would be, you stay toasty, Detective Frogs.
Yeah, which I said aloud. Kaz entrapped me into saying that out loud. He put me in a no-win situation. Like, I had to say it.
I like stay toasty. And I like frogs, so you know
that
what?
makes two of you.
There's a whole journey there in regards to the catchphrase. You'll have to listen to season 2 so you can hear the birth, evolution, and gradual death of our catchphrase.
Of the catchphrase.
But
hey, I put this fucking thing behind me.
Before you turn this episode off and go back and start from season 2 to find out all about that, let's move on with this particular episode. And our guest, who we're talking to, whose voice you're hearing and listening to now, is our guest. She's an actor, writer, she's a theater artist, and she's the artistic associate at Saskatoon's Persephone Theater, Jennica Grienke. Welcome to the show.
Woo, woo, woo. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so excited. I know I'm added to your list of actor guests, but I'm happy to be here.
How many fucking actors can we have on this show? We gotta start reaching out to tradesmen or a couple of attorneys. Get some variety in our guests here. Not that there's anything wrong with actors.
All of us actors are so desperate for attention and time to talk that this is perfect for us. You're doing a service, actually. All of your actor friends.
Jennica, on this podcast, we watch weird, bizarre, crazy, fucked up, wild, unseen movies that no one ever talks about. What would you say is the weirdest movie you've ever watched?
Oh my god. Okay, I was thinking about this because I knew you would ask this. So we've talked about it before, but the weirdest movie that I think I love is The Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag, which I desperately want to do on this show with you someday, but it was a cult classic in our family. It was like the rainy day movie. If we were all in a bad mood, we would just put that movie on and watch it. And I swear to God, no one has ever seen it.
Never heard of this movie before.
It's a title.
Who's in it? What's it about?
Yeah, tell us more about it. It's a title that is familiar, and we would have done it if we could have found it on a streaming platform that we can all watch in our various houses. Unfortunately, we weren't able to find that this time. Yeah, tell us a little more about The Gun in Betty Lou's Handbag.
So basically, what I can remember, now it's been decades since I saw it last because we only had it on VHS, but basically there's this sort of plain housewife who decides she wants to shake things up a bit. And she finds a gun from an actual crime and decides to conceal it in her handbag, hence the title. Her name's Betty Lou.
Whoa,
and then
twist!
Basically, her husband happens to be the lead detective in the small town that they're in. And he has to arrest his wife because she has this gun that is the key piece of evidence. And so she gets arrested, and basically it's a she's all that in jail, where they make her hot. They're like, oh, you dowdy housewife, you need to spice up your life. That's why you pretended to commit this crime. And so they give her this makeover and she becomes this like sex pot and then like rekindles the love in her marriage and like also accidentally gets embroiled in like the mob because the mob was the actual criminals and then the mob comes for her and they're like, who is this new player in the game? And she gets embroiled in all of this drama. And that's probably the sloppiest synopsis. Like,
it sounds delightful, to be honest.
I love the visual way of describing she's all that in a jail, because when you say that, I don't think of a women's prison. I think of big burly men locked up together, and they find like the what, like, you know, like there's like the one white collar criminal, but he takes his glasses off and he puts his hair down, and like the big Bubba is all like, my God, you're beautiful. It's all, was I a bet? Was I always your bitch?
Oh my God. I didn't even think of that, but the key prisoner who like is in charge of the makeover is what's her name? She's in Casper, like the 90s Casper movie.
But not Christina Ricci, who's the only actor I can think of who's in that movie right now.
Oh God. Okay, well I won't slow things down by trying to think of the name of the actress, but she's like pretty well known. She's like sort of like a crude blonde woman.
Oh, Kathy Moriarty! Right, the villain in Casper. That's right. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. All you had to do was the 5 packs of cigarettes and gay voice, and I knew exactly who you were talking about. Yeah,
acting.
The part is yours.
Someone cast me.
Yeah, this is not an interview show. This is an audition.
I wish. Oh my God.
Well, let's talk about the movie that we're going to watch today. Now, there's been a Band-Aid on this podcast for a while, and we keep meaning to rip off the Band-Aid. We were going to do it at Halloween. And
what's this week? You have been trying to do this.
I've been trying to rip this Band-Aid off for a while.
You have been stacking the deck.
We're finally doing it. We've been trying. We almost did it at Halloween. Didn't quite work out. We very nearly did it at Christmas, and then at the last minute we had to swerve, and we weren't able to rip the Band-Aid off. So today we are ripping the Tim Curry Band-Aid off of this podcast. We are watching 1988's Pass the Ammo, directed by David Beaird, whose career we're going to talk about in a little bit here. But to start off, now, if I've never said this on the podcast before...
You and your Tim Curry.
Tim Curry is my favorite actor. He has been my favorite actor since I was like 10 years old, probably. I remember going to my mom's work, and while she was in a meeting, I was on the computer, which was years before we had a home computer, so it was wild getting to go to my mom's work to sit on any computer and play around with the screensaver. And back in like the early 90s, where did I go? I played computer games, and I went to the Tim Curry official website. And I ran down all of them, and I like memorized like all of the man's movies, all like, these are all of the Tim Curry movies that I need to see. I was just obsessed because my parents showed me Rocky Horror at a very young age, and I was just like, who is this guy? And then I found out that he was in Fern Gully, and he was in Pebble and the Penguin. He was just the most interesting fucking guy I had ever seen. Muppet Treasure Island, that was a huge one.
He was in Congo, yeah.
He was Hexus. He was the smog monster. He's like, ooh, you've got that toxic love. Oh my God.
He's perfect in that. That's perfect.
It's great. I mean, yeah, I could talk about the man for hours, but I don't know. Either of you have any fondness for Mr. Curry that you might want to share on the show?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, who doesn't love the guy? He's great. He's even great in Home Alone.
Oh yeah, it's the evil concierge. We're not evil, just like a thorn in Macaulay Culkin's side, yeah.
Yeah, when he like has to get down on his knees and tell him he loves him. That's a great moment. Of course, I haven't really clocked his career outside of Rocky Horror, and then every time I see him, I'm like, oh, you're awesome. I don't think he's done something that I haven't really liked. Maybe It.
I mean, like, to me, he is like one of those voices of my childhood, because every other animated movie or TV show I saw, he was the voice of the bad guy. Yeah, he's just got he's got some good pipes, that guy. And yeah, whenever I see him in a movie, he has like this magnetism where like you just want to watch him, because he's going to, when a writer writes a line, they kind of hope for the best, like from the actor and the performer, until they kind of put their own spin on it. you can always count on Tim Curry to, like, find, like, the nuance on every little syllable that he can find. And yeah, he's great. He's not my favorite actor, but I appreciate him for what he does. And I appreciate the impact that he's had on his fellow thespians, I suppose.
Roles leading and minuscule, from his tour de force performance in Clue to his appearance in that Command and Conquer game where he's the Russian president. He says,
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
If you want to watch, like, the same YouTube clip 15 times in a row, check that out. That one's amazing.
The Command and Conquer series there was that one game where they just hired a bunch of, like, David Hasselhoff.
He's in that. Yeah, they found a spot for him in that, too, so yeah.
They found, like, a good minerals for, like, every kind of cult actor.
For sure. Yeah, I wanted to do a Tim Curry movie, and I had genuinely never heard of this one before. This was a complete blind spot for me and many people. And speaking of blind spots, this movie was directed by a guy named David Beaird. This guy is kind of like exactly the type of director I want to focus on this podcast, because this guy has a career. He has a filmography. He has a definite series of films that he mostly wrote himself, and they all have one thing in common. No one has ever watched any of them ever. They don't exist. These movies don't exist. There's not a single one among them that has any sort of following that anyone has ever mentioned before. And he's got a whole career filled with them. So really quickly...
How does he keep getting jobs then? He sounds like box office poison.
Who knows how this guy was able to dig his nails into his career as long as he was and hold on there. But he did. So let's run down this guy's career really quickly. Now, something that I like to do sometimes is I like to read the plot synopses as submitted by users on IMDb. These are user-submitted synopses. All of the wording has been unchanged. Sometimes these are amazing. I just love the way people string sentences together. So I'm going to run down David Beard's filmography really quick, like a lightning round of all of his films. So his first film, in 1982, was the sexual dramatic thriller Octavia. This is the plot synopsis as submitted by someone on IMDb. I'm going to include, it's 4 sentences, and I'm going to include where the periods are, because it kind of makes it more funny. All right. The blind Octavia never left her fenced-in estate where she lives with her abusive father. Period. All that changes when Beau comes into her life. Period. Although frightened of her budding sexuality. Period. In HD. That's it. I don't know who wrote that.
Jesus, that's like a haiku.
That is the best idea. You should go write haiku movie synopses.
For films I haven't seen yet.
That sounds like a good movie. Budding sexuality in HD?
In HD. It's an obscure movie from 1982 that no one has ever heard of. I can guarantee you, it's probably not in HD. I don't know who wrote that.
But it's probably free on YouTube.
It is true. That's the one thing I didn't check. I didn't check to see how many of these are free on YouTube, like this one is. But anyway, his next film, this is 1984's The Party Animal. Pondo Sinatra is a college boy with a problem. Yes, the character's name is Pondo Sinatra. Women will have nothing to do with him. It's not that he was raised on a chicken farm and literally came to school on the back of a turnip truck. The problem is that God and heaven have set themselves against Pondo losing his virginity. That is until Pondo discovers the secret formula to the most powerful aphrodisiac in the world and becomes the party animal. Rated R.
That sounds like a banger. I'll watch that. That sounds great. Pondo
in the house.
Pondo can get it.
I love it.
Pondo Sinatra.
That is one of those screwball sex comedies that you and I watched like in our first year, Kaz, if I ever heard one.
Yeah, that's probably aged amazingly. Nothing wrong with that movie.
Did you say that this director writes his own movies?
He wrote the majority of his own movies, except for the movie we're watching today. More on who wrote that in a minute, but yeah, for the most part, he wrote all of his own. So he's an auteur filmmaker. He literally is. It's just no one has ever bothered to give this guy's movies the time of day.
That's what we're here for today,
That's
right?
what
I was so curious because of like the religious element. Like God is determined that he's not going to lose his virginity. Like, what? Okay, anyway, I have so many questions. I want to watch this man's entire catalog of films.
It's all part of God's master plan. This one guy can never get laid.
Poor Pondo.
For a reason that'll be revealed thousands and thousands of years from now.
I mean,
it sounds like Pondo gets over it really quickly. He's just like, fuck you, God. I'm going to make this aphrodisiac.
Within the first 20 minutes, it appears, yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah, like he's... No,
That's how
he
you set up a
pulls
plot.
himself by his bootstraps there. He finds his own solutions.
I love it. Tell us more. What else did he do?
I will tell you more, but God, I love the name Pondo Sinatra. Isn't that great? Like, I want next RPG I play, that's got to be the name of my character.
You don't want to give yourself away too much, so you don't want to, like... What's this guy's real name?
The director?
Yeah.
George Beaird.
George Beaird, okay. Alright, so he doesn't want to, like, make up a character name and call him George Mustache or something. So, like, this is as far away from his real name as he can get with character names.
Sorry, David Beaird.
Name
Not George
David Beaird.
My,
Okay,
that's very
Beaird.
important, yes. Also, Beard is spelt with an I. It's the word beard, but in between the A and the R, there's an I. So it might be Beaird? I'm not sure.
Beard?
Beard?
Well, it is to me now.
Yeah. I don't
Call
know.
him Pondo Sinatra.
You'll just call him,
in honor of his greatest character name.
All right, running down this filmography a little bit more. Not all of these sound amazing, but all of them continue to just not exist. These movies don't exist. Here's another movie
We
that...
said at the top that we weren't going to go on too many tangents.
This isn't a tangent, I'm staying on track here. All right,
Gotcha.
so...
This was planned.
Another movie that doesn't exist, 1996's My Chauffeur, which is a romantic comedy starring Deborah Foreman of Valley Girl and Sam Jones of Flash Gordon. Then in 1988, he directed It Takes Two, which stars George Newbern of Superman the Animated Series, who's about to get married, but he meets a sexy car saleswoman, and is starting having second thoughts. Yeah, no one's ever heard of those. Here's the other one that I really wanted to talk about, because this one, this is another user-submitted synopsis here that I have not changed the wording of at all. 1991's Scorchers. On Splendid's wedding night, she won't allow her husband, Dolan, to consummate the marriage. Meanwhile, her armed cousin is looking for the hooker who slept with her husband. That's all the plot synopsis for 1991's Scorchers.
It sounds splendid.
Splendid. These movies sound really boring. I'm just gonna... I mean, like, I like them, but no wonder no one knows about them. It's like, he was gonna get married, but then he had second thoughts.
Yeah, they all kind of have the same theme of, like, romance and or sexy mishaps or, like, sex
With
workers.
really dumb names.
Yeah.
I mean, the names are the best part.
The names are great. I'm not going to spoil it. There are some amazing character names in this movie past the ammo as well, but we'll get to that as well. Scorchers, somehow or other, managed to have a cast that includes Faye Dunaway, Jennifer Tilly, and James Earl Jones.
What?
Yeah.
Whoa.
So that's like
Tilly?
that's like the most high profile cast out of any of the movies that he's made.
That's
poor
amazing.
James Earl Jones.
Yeah.
Where
He got Mufasa.
there's a lot of movies I've bookmarked for this show, Jameson, that have got James Earl Jones involved in some way or the other. We've just never gotten to
poor
one
James
yet.
Earl Jones.
Aw.
Once we open that floodgate, there's going to be a ton of James Earl Jones on this show coming soon.
No!
Well done. And just to wrap things up here, his final movie was 2005's The Civilization of Maxwell Bright. Predictably, here's the plot synopsis for that. A man orders a mail-order bride and gets more than he bargained for. And this movie's really only notable for being one of the rare leading man roles for Patrick Warburton. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
As I said before, David Beaird wrote most of his movies, except for this one. This one was written by the Coen brothers.
No.
Excuse me?
Oh,
Not Joel and Ethan Coen.
Sorry. I kind of inhaled as I was saying that sentence. That didn't quite work. Let me back up a little bit here. Yes, as I was saying, this was written by the Coen brothers. Yes, Joel and Neil Coen.
Oh, the fucking Garfield guy, right?
It is, yes. Rather infamously, Joel Coen wrote the screenplay to Garfield.
And swindled Bill Murray into being in it.
Because he thought Academy Award winner Joel Coen wrote the movie, yeah. So yeah, it's that Joel Coen. This is something that I don't feel like a lot of people talk about. There's a Joel Coen who is writing screenplays in Hollywood right now. He has a brother that he works with, but unrelated to that, unrelated to the Coen family, there's also another screenwriter whose name is Ethan Coen, which is Ethan without the A. Yeah, but they've never worked together before, and they both make horrible screenplays. Ethan Coen did that horrible Holmes and Watson movie that John C. Reilly and Will Ferrell did a while back. No. So it's like, there's the Coen brothers, and then there's Joel and Ethan Coen, who aren't related, but both make the worst fucking movies in Hollywood right now. So,
you know what I always wish that the fake Coen brothers would do was, you know how the Asylum will always churn out like these like really shitty knockoffs of like popular big budget movies?
That's their whole
I really wish that they would go and like the Asylum would do like really shitty knockoffs of Coen brother movies with these guys.
No Country for Old Women.
The Small Lebowski or something.
A not so serious man.
Oh my god.
My wife has cheated on me and my son hates me, but you know what? It's alright. Credits.
We're after perusing.
Alright, so let's talk about the cast of this movie. Pretty damn good cast. Leading us off here, we have the late, great Bill Paxton.
Love him.
Yep.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
Who at this point had done Aliens, Near Dark, so his star was on the rise. This was right at a turning point in his career for him. Also in this movie is the great Annie Potts from Ghostbusters in Pretty in Pink.
Oh, from Ghostbusters.
Not the first time that, well, no, this is the first time, but eventually Tim Curry and Annie Potts would work on another project together. I know I said no tangents, but this is maybe the only opportunity I'll ever get to talk about this on this show. Does anyone remember the TV show Over the Top?
No.
I remember the Stallone movie.
I think I'm maybe one of the only people, you know, as a young teenage Tim Curry superfan who even remembers this show. This came out right in the peak of ABC's TGIF lineup. It was Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and that genie show that was going on for a while. And then, you know, I started seeing ads for this new show with Tim Curry and Annie Potts, where they like work in like a hotel. Steve Carell played a supporting role in that, and I got fucking hyped for the premiere. I have like a visceral memory of like sitting in front of like, yeah, the new Tim Curry TGIF comedy. It's like Friday nights are even better. It lasted
like
3 episodes. 3 episodes and then they pulled it. But I think
you asked us if we knew about it. I love that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you didn't catch it?
Do you know this really short-lived sitcom from the 90s?
3 episodes? See, I'm very curious how something like that looks like it actually could be okay with those 2 actors, that gets pulled after 3 episodes, but Mr. Beaird can just make bad movie after bad movie for decades, and he's still working. What? How does that work? Hollywood is a mess.
I bet he skips town after production wraps. He's like a traveling con man.
You can do them super cheap or something, so they still make money somehow.
He delivers like films like on time, under budget.
Maybe that's it.
All I'll say is that the film industry was a very different beast in the 80s than it is now today. I mean, like, these movies don't exist anymore today, and if they do, they go straight to, like, Netflix, and they're, like, buried, because they all seem like little indie comedies. Yeah. Anyway, wrapping up the cast here, on the poster for this movie, there's a 4th name. Speaking of names that kind of somewhat seem familiar, but you don't quite know where they're from, does the name Linda Kozlovsky mean anything to either of you?
Nah.
I needed to do some digging, either. This was only her 2nd movie, but her previous movie to this was very successful. She was the star of the 2nd highest grossing film of 1986. Weirdly successful film franchise that I think everyone loved in the 80s, but you would be hard-pressed to find anyone who's seen it now.
Just get to it, Kat, for God's sake.
I'm dying to know.
She is the female lead of Crocodile Dundee.
Yes!
Oh, yes, a movie movie that I've never seen, and I personally don't know anyone who has seen it, but it made an insane amount of money. I guess people loved wacky Australians back in the 80s.
Wait, are you serious you've never seen Crocodile Dundee, or is this a bit?
No.
I just didn't pick up on it? You've never seen Crocodile Dundee?
Why would I watch Crocodile Dundee?
I think I've seen Crocodile Dundee like 30 times.
Okay,
30 times?
Always on TV. How did you not watch that movie?
And you stopped every time to watch it in full?
I grew up in a very small town, okay? There wasn't a lot to do.
Well, there we go. I was throwing shade, and now I found the world's biggest Crocodile Dundee superfan. So you're very familiar with this one.
What? But
The cultural
you don't
touchstone
even
that
know,
was
like,
Crocodile
you call that a
Dundee.
nod?
I know.
That's not a nod.
I know the quotes from Crocodile Dundee because they've become synonymous with
I know
pop
that
culture
quote
and everything.
from Crocodile
I've seen that
Dundee.
one episode of The Simpsons, so yeah, I know like the quotes and everything. What even is the plot of Crocodile Dundee?
Oh, I mean, fuck knows.
After 30 times, you don't know?
It just washes over me,
if
okay?
I had to
It's just an
guess, I think
experience.
it's like fucking Beverly Hills Cop, except instead of coming from
That's right,
Detroit,
that's right. Yeah, it's like that.
he comes from Australia.
Yeah, you know more than and you have never seen this movie. You just know what you're saying.
I'm taking a shot in the dark on the
Is
premise.
he a cop? Is he like an Australian cop? Is that like the...
He's like a bushwhacker or something.
That doesn't clarify things, Jameson, for me at all.
I mean, the whole time you're just bewildered and bemused by the accent. So you're just like, what's happening? I don't know or care. This is fun though. Because
I think that's it.
he's
I
saying
think
good day.
I think that's what American audiences drank down the Kool-Aid of, as all like, I don't understand this, but listen to that accent. That's different from what I sound like. Here's all my money.
See, but like America loves movies like that, where they're just like, take this person from their culture and put them in America and see how they do. It's so funny.
You know, I never was able to really crack it as a screenwriter, but I gotta imagine, like, if I had just been born, like, maybe a couple of decades earlier, I could have totally made it in the 80s, because it sounds fucking easy to make it as a
I like that as
successful
a name for
screenwriter.
something. Made it in the 80s. You could have made it in the 80s. I see. My autobiography
Made it in the
is
80s.
should have been a plumber.
We're going to talk about that in the plugs. We're going to have you plug your as of yet non-existent autobiography, Should Have Been a Plumber. All right. So the very last actor that I want to run down here as my cat knocks everything over. God, he does this every time. It's the only place I can set my computer up, and he just wants to walk all over it. So the last actor that I want to talk about is not necessarily a name actor, but this is an actor that I love every time he pops up in something. It is Brian Thompson, who is known for 3 roles in particular. He is the punk in The Terminator that Arnold Schwarzenegger steals the clothes from. You remember the other punk in that scene?
Yeah, that was Bill Paxton.
They're rejoining forces yet again.
Yeah, he's notoried for being like the one guy who got killed by the alien, the Predator, and the Terminator. Yeah, everybody knows that.
Yeah, he's in The Terminator. He was the villainous night slasher in Sylvester Stallone's Cobra.
Oh.
But the role that I recognize him, unfortunately, the most from, he was Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
What is his name? What is the actor's name?
Brian Thompson. He's just a big, hulking, imposing-looking dude. And yeah, he plays bad guys a lot. And for some reason, he's got a supporting role in this religious-based comedy. Yeah, we haven't even talked about what this movie's about. It's about, like, televangelists or something. That's really the bulk of what I know about. I know nothing about this.
I was wondering if you targeted me with this movie because of my religious past.
No, didn't even think about that, but that's an excellent point.
And that's probably good for me to know before I start going into this religious comedy, before I start...
Well, we don't poke fun at, like, organized religion here, but I don't know, do you have...
Oh, shit. I'm not in an organized religion, and
No.
I hate it. I hate them.
Okay, well then we will. Then we are all about that. Then we are 100% all about that. I mean, like your background is Mennonite, and this is, I believe, either Christianity or Catholicism. I don't know how much
We're gonna find out.
crossover there is, but
If it's televangelist, it's going to be evangelical, so that's...
for the sake of the podcast, let's just assume that you are our religion expert, Jennica. But
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Accepted.
All right, great.
I'm donning my religious expert cap.
Fantastic. Let's all put our religious expert caps on. Let's take a little break.
Yarmulkes or our Pope hats.
And when we come back, we'll have seen 1988's Pass the Ammo, and we'll tell you who passed the ammo to who. We'll tell you who received the ammo. It'll be very...
We're going to pass this on over to the charity spot, and then we're going to, I don't know.
Very strong ending. All right, great. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a bit.
One of the all-time greats.
Hey everybody, time for the charity shout-out. Now, something I'm not sure I've ever mentioned on the show before is that I am Polish. I'm Polish on my grandfather's side, but despite that, I don't speak any Polish, and until 2019, I had never even traveled to Poland. However, you don't need to have a deep connection to Poland or even be Polish yourself to be deeply disturbed, angry, and upset by the recent ruling from a constitutional tribunal that has imposed a near-total ban on abortion in Poland. For the past few months, more than 400,000 people have been protesting this alarming ruling that now bans the termination of pregnancies due to fetal abnormalities, essentially robbing women of their rights and making their bodies political and religious talking points, rather than, their bodies, which they should have total and complete jurisdiction over. This is largely thanks to the influence of Poland's current ruling government, the Law and Justice Party, whose acronym, I shit you not, is PIS. So yes, Poland is currently being run by the PiS party, which is showing a piss-poor understanding of both a women's agency to choose, not to mention all the horrible homophobic and transphobic beliefs that they also have. Basically, the situation in Poland is awful right now. Religious fundamentalists are running things and taking away rights like crazy, and it's unfucking acceptable as far as this humble podcast host is concerned. That's why I'd like to ask you to donate to the Abortion Dream Team, who are working to stop the spread of misinformation about abortion and are providing the tools and information needed for women who are seeking abortions in Poland, other resources and locations where they can safely acquire one. To make a donation, visit zrzutka.pl/55G5GX. That's a Polish word, so I'll spell it out for you. That's zrzutka.pl/55G5GX. Once more for our American listeners, that's zrzutka.pl/55G5GX. Poland, let women be the judge of what they want to do with their bodies. And while you're at it, stop being homophobes as well. You're making me ashamed of where I came from, and 2021, we can all do better.
It's not a perfect system that we got here. Not like the movie Pass the Ammo. Holy fuck.
Not like our modern religion system at all, yeah. No, we are back. Jeez, I'll tell you one thing.
Wow.
Sometimes we watch movies where the title is a little misleading. They definitely passed some ammo in this movie. There was ammunition passing, exchanging hands. Good lord.
Now, that's one way to describe it. Good lord. Also, Jesus Christ. Holy fuck. Oh, good lord, Kaz,
well done.
What a fucking emotional roller coaster this movie was. I don't think we've seen a movie on the show in a while that's had so many peaks and valleys as this movie.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster, but I was here for it. On the roller coaster, I was like, what is this? I don't know I think I like it. Yeah, I like it. Oh, it's fun. And then it was like, oh, it's weird again. And then it got sad.
Yeah. I do love it when we watch a movie on this show going into it, not knowing anything about it, and it is immediately weird. Occasionally, it'll take a little while for the wheels to start turning and for plot elements to drop in. This is confusing from minute one, and it truly never stops being there.
Yeah, it had a sort of bonkers opening, and then there were some interesting ideas as the plot started clicking along. And then it just ends in a barrage of adrenaline spikes. You know what this movie fucking reminded me of? Man of Steel.
Yeah, I can see that comparison.
Interesting ideas to it. It had some parts of it that I liked, but then it kind of lost me for a bit, and then the last half of the movie was just mind-numbingly aggressive.
They introduced so many new characters towards the end, too,
Yeah.
that I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Who are you? You're
Yeah.
in on the thing? Which part of the thing? Are you going to factor in again? No? Oh, okay.
Yeah, can anyone tell me who GW was? Who was that character? He just showed up, he shows up out of nowhere, tells everyone to blow up the church with everyone inside of it, and then walks out of the movie never to return. who are you? What relation do you have to anyone here?
There's this cabal of rich people who sort of profit off the church and who have, like, put this young governor who's, like, easily manipulated in position of power. So those are some pretty bad guys. But they all answer to JW, who's, like, the worst of the worst. You know?
But then he was supposed to be, like, the truest Christian or something at the end. He was like, that's my God, you're embarrassing. So, like, I'm like, but wouldn't you be embarrassed by stealing? And, like, manipulating government? Like, I don't understand who is actually good and who is bad. And I don't think the movie was smart enough to be doing that on purpose.
There were a lot of bad guys in this movie. It's kind of hard to find, like, kind of one good guy to really root for. Of course, like, the movie wants us to follow and play along with the charming robbers that stormed the church, but even they are oddballs and holding people at gunpoint and stuff. You know, this is a weird fucking heist comedy musical action movie.
There's so many different genres you can describe to this one movie. It really is trying to be so much. It really is trying to be everything. And Quelle Surprise, it ends up not doing any of it terribly well. It's really good at kind of doing all of these genres.
Jack of all trade, master of none.
I mean, like, the religious parody was a lot of fun, I have to say. All the evangelical BS that they mock. Like, I was like, this is so hilarious. I love it all.
I wish that was the bulk of the movie. Honestly, I think it would be. I mean, like, I'm biased because that would mean it would be 80% more Tim Curry all the time, but it really, that was the best part of the movie. And this movie desperately needed focus because this is, at its crux, a really simple movie to sum up. It's a really simple idea. There's this crooked televangelist who, in the middle of a broadcast, is taken hostage by a bunch of people that he cheated out of money. That is a very simple, easy to understand, easy to follow setup that can add in some satirical elements, but it encapsulates in just utter violent madness. It doesn't know where to go with its satire, so it settles on blowing up the movie at the end. It literally blows itself up at the end because it doesn't know how to finish this story.
I know, and even the ending, it just keeps going and going. It's a shame those two kids have to die. And then they, like, are running off into the woods, and he's like, well, guess I'm gonna knock up and start farming.
Yeah, a real positive note to end the movie on, yeah.
And, like, that's the resolution? That's what this was all for? I don't know. It just, like you said, it had so many good bones in terms of the setup of the premise. If it would have just stopped, it would have been like, okay, they take them hostage, they expose the crooked evangelist preacher, and they win over the hearts of the locals through this television, and the cops love them, and it's a happy ending. Like, there was it was headed towards that. And then we had some random, like, rocket launchers going off.
The movie that we all pictured in our heads is how this movie ought to have gone. I'd say, like, the movie at the very start, like, Kaz, when you had mentioned that, like, oh, I just want this to be Tim Curry's crazy, well, not crazy, but his crooked preacher character, I figured, like, that, we get that relatively early on in the movie. And if that was the full 2 hour of the movie, like, that wouldn't be much of a story. And I was kind of worried that, like, your love of Tim Curry would have blinded you to the fact that there really is no fucking story to this. It's just him, you know, chewing the scenery. Which, fine if you're a fan, but, like, as a casual fan like me, I wouldn't have got it. So I really was rooting for the robbers in this and their whole plot. But, as we said, like, once we kind of follow them for intercut between the opening montage of, like, just how crooked the church is, not really knowing who these robbers are. And then when they finally storm the church, hold people hostage, then we kind of, like, you know, we get some of the character moments, and I'm kind of on board with it. I'm really liking this hostage situation movie. And then it just keeps swerving in ways that lose me.
It's so infatuated by all of the side characters and all of the wacky character actors that it's roped into it. It can't stop cutting away. And it desperately needed a better editor. I think what you were saying, Jameson, about the fact that the movie introduces these band of robbers before they get to the church, I think that's the first real mistake that this movie makes. If it had started in the church and had just been in the church, it's a real slow build. I wouldn't mind if the robbers showed up and started taking everyone hostage when they do in the movie. I think that was which was around like 30 minutes in. There's like 30 minutes of just whatever before we get to the part where people start taken hostage.
Well, like they have to fail at sticking up the convenience store gas station.
Yeah, don't need it.
And then they have to go to to their cousin's house where Bill Paxton is, and we're not even sure that they're friends, and like that all takes so much time. And then they roll into town literally with their guns out of the convertible, just like going towards the church. It takes so long to get there.
Don't need it at all. Front load the movie with all of the weird church stuff. Show us, as an audience, show us the broadcast. Show us Tim Curry being charming. Show us Annie Potts with her multiple song numbers. Show us more of Samson and Delilah the musical. We only get maybe 10 seconds of that, and it's not enough.
It's not in the nature of my heart to make a fast move a false start. But Delilah, touch me on river spots right up and down my spine. Just tell it to me.
Not enough, indeed. I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah, show the TV audience just absolutely zombified, glued to television, working off all their money, having it like go through like the banking system that they have in the basement. Show what the telethon that they're having in the church, like the tackiest fucking mega church I've ever seen. Such an obvious parody. Like anyone should kind of clue in that this is a scam operation. But you know he has his hyper loyal flock that he's just bilking for all they're worth, and maybe have these interspersed cuts of the people who are running the heist getting ready. Like they're putting on their gear, they're talking to their inside man, they're breaking down locks and everything. That's kind of exciting. And then when they take hostages, that's when you kind of like pull back and reveal more about these characters and why they're actually doing it.
Yeah, cut to Bill Paxton in the audience watching it happen, and maybe there's like a moment where everyone applauds, and then as the applause dies out, Bill Paxton is still clapping like a little too loudly, and you're, as an audience member, you're all like, what's that all about? What's that guy there? We don't need the movie to explain what these robbers' motivation are, because when they show up with the guns and they take everyone hostage, all we need to do is have Bill Paxton say, you stole my girlfriend's life savings. It's like, okay, we get it now. We don't need you to explain this. We don't need to see them drive up. We just need them to be there. And because the mega church is awesome. What a great set. It is the best part of this movie is just the mega church, the set design, all of the weird little segments, even the behind the scenes stuff, the sort of odd couple interplay between the one hippie producer and like the other straight-laced like Christian producer. Like that's all great.
That guy was the best. The dope smoking one was the best. He was who I was rooting for throughout this whole
guy
movie.
Who claimed he was born again,
so
but really
cool.
he just, wanted a job.
Yeah, exactly. And he's in touch with all 27 of his past lives. I loved it. He was gold in this movie. But yeah, like Cass, what you were saying about the set, the evangelical church being this great setting, I was like, I want to do the site-specific immersive theater adaptation of this movie and just make it better. Like, just take the plot, the simple plot of the hostages taken and work with that. And just, that would be, I think it would be a really fun play, actually.
Yeah, it felt very theatrical. I agree with you, Jen. Like, as I was watching it, I was thinking, like, yeah, you could. It also helps that while I wouldn't call this movie a musical, there are multiple songs throughout it. And yeah, totally just watching this, I'm all like, this could transfer over to a stage musical quite well. Write some new original songs for it, but keep it within the confines of, what was that first, because the first song is barely a song. They literally just say the same line 80 times in a row.
You're in paradise
like
now.
You're in paradise
that's
now?
the opening number, and it's just, you're in paradise like ad nauseum.
It's kind of ironic. I was making that joke earlier. It's kind of ironic that this is written by the Coen brothers. It's written by the non-union counterpart of the Coen brothers when you can't get it. Because this kind of feels Coen-esque, this story. Like, the small town characters.
Yeah.
I mean, the two robbers, Big Joe and Arnold, as soon as they showed up, I wrote down, not Walter and Donnie walk into this movie. Because that's really what they are. They just feel like... I looked it up because I could have sworn this was the same actor, but one of the evil white businessmen dudes, I don't even know who these guys are, but like one of them, I could have sworn it was the same actor that Javier Bardem forced to have the coin flip in just like that old withered like redneck guy.
Really?
It wasn't him, but it's just like this movie keeps reminding me of Coen Brothers shit. And it's funny that it's written by the Coen Brothers.
That's funny you should say that, because more than anything, this reminded me of Steven Soderbergh. You know, like an Ocean's 11 or a Logan Lucky kind of comedy heist movie where there are these likable, charismatic, interesting characters who are doing these crimes for the right reasons, or for noble reasons, I suppose, other than, you know, robbing money.
It didn't remind me of Ocean's 11. It did remind me of another George Clooney movie. If anything, this reminded me the most of Money Monster. Anyone? That's a movie that came and went, and no one remembers it. But just in the sense that it's one guy with like a built-in audience, and then a guy with a gun comes and takes him hostage and forces him to keep the show going. That's what it kind of reminded me of the most. Near the beginning, with like the audience and the musical numbers and everyone clapping along, I was getting some strong Shock Treatment vibes, Jameson. And luckily, it veered away from that.
Yeah, and luckily Tim Curry was actually in this one.
Tim Curry was actually in this one.
So you weren't on edge the whole time. So, do we want to like just kind of go over plot by, or beat by beat with the plots?
We can try. We can fucking try, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
I did try to take plot point notes, and then I gave up because I was like, I don't know how this
like the movie really doesn't fucking begin until 20 minutes into the movie. But, you know, essentially there are these robbers who are going to get Bill Paxton's girlfriend Bill Paxton and these two guys, Tiny Arnold and Big Joe, which I don't think are their names, but that's how I wrote them down.
His character name is literally Big Joe.
Okay,
yes.
and
I think he's just regular Arnold, but yeah, this...
And Tiny Arnold?
Yeah. And they are the cousins of Bill Paxton's girlfriend, and they decide that they are going to rob the church because, as we find out, grandmother gave all of her life savings that was supposed to be given to Bill Paxton's girlfriend to the church. They're going to go get it back. She doesn't really want that to happen. She would just be happy to have a nice... She would like to get married to Bill Paxton, but he's like, "No, you're my princess. Like, I gotta treat her like a princess. We're gonna get your money back." And then she's just along for the ride on the heist.
Yeah, she's one of those 80s women character who probably shouldn't be going along with the decisions of the men, but she doesn't really have much of a personality of her own. She's kind of just there. Occasionally the movie remembers that she's there and tries to give her stuff to do, but she doesn't really have much of a personality of her own.
There was so many times where they just like pan to her and she's sitting alone in the audience.
She's just
just sitting there.
Yeah, every once in a while she'll do something that helps the heist, and then she'll go and like try to talk Bill Paxton down from his master plan, whatever the script needs from her at that moment.
Yeah, just makes no sense. And I mean, I have to say, I confess, I did not really put the pieces together about her grandmother giving the money to the church until very near the end. I was like, wait, how did they get her money?
Yeah.
She gave it, and not, like, I mean, it's not really stealing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's the whole idea behind, like, this whole mega church televangelist thing anyway, is that it's a way for these groups to essentially rob people of their money without technically stealing. You know, it's like, that's their whole joint.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, there's a very subtle line that Arnold says at one point in the movie, because he's going along for the heist, like, you know, to help out, but he's also hoping to meet a religious girl, because as an ex-con, he said some of these religious girls, they really have a thing for cons. And I know he means convicts, but...
Yeah. That's that Coen Brothers touch right there.
I have to just say, the part where they bring Arnold up to start undoing Tim Curry's pants, and then they say, "You're gonna butt fuck the preacher on TV."
Great line. That was one of my favorite lines of the movie.
I think I'll take old Ray here. And then? And pull down his trousers. And then? And then? And then? And then?
You're gonna butt fuck the preacher on TV.
I couldn't. What is this movie? Oh my god. Anyway, sorry. It just came back into my head. I think it's permanently gonna live there anytime I see a televangelist. Okay, so you wanted to summarize the movie. So what happens then? Basically, we meet the crooks. We meet the Bill Paxton's boring girlfriend.
Yeah, and then their entire plan, I guess, they don't really seem to have much of a plan. They kind of just fall into this. Their plans seem to be go to the church with guns. And then, like, step one is go to the church with gun. Step two, Step 3 is profit, though. So it's like, we haven't quite figured out step 2 yet, but...
No, it's not profit. Like,
you know,
like they go there specifically just to get the money she lost back. They're not there to rob the whole place, even though, like, her fucking cousins want their cut, you know, so they go a little overboard, but then...
They rob the cashiers, and then they don't, that's right, they don't mean to stumble onto the set. That's an accidental thing.
But as they're trying to get away and get out of security, they take a wrong turn, and then they wind up on stage, and when all the cameras are on them, they just said, fuck it, now it's a hostage situation.
Like, I'm glad that they went there. I think there was other options. Like, if I was actually a crook and I had all this money and I accidentally went on stage, I'd be like, oh, oops. And I'd just try to leave. Like, I don't think my first instinct would be to...
It's kind of sweaty, the whole, like, oh, we took, like, a wrong turn and now we're on the stage, even though I think, as you pointed out as we were watching it, Jameson, there really isn't any scenario where the stage door wouldn't be highlighted in big bold letters that is in fact what the stage door is. It's more like you're saying, I'm picturing the movie that I would have rather have seen in my head. It might have been good if they were already in the audience and, you know, we established them in different scenes throughout this opening 20 minutes of the movie. And then, because it all comes to a head when Reverend Ray is walking through the audience and he's doing the thing where it's all like, who here has like a problem with money? You have a problem? You're saved, madam! And he's doing that, and it's great, it's Tim Curry.
Someone at this part of the stage either has or had a problem with money, you know, that kind of like easy mark kind of stuff.
Or like, someone here has a problem with alcohol.
Yeah, that whole fake psychic bullshit. And like, I'm getting a reading over here. Someone has a problem with their father. Their father's name starts with G-H-I. And, you know, it's like, it's that kind of like...
My father's name started with N. There you are.
That's close enough. Yeah, I
knew it.
But, you know, exactly. So have Reverend Ray going around talking to the audience, and then this is where... we should be introduced to Bill Paxton, where he, like, gets out of the thing, and he's walking around. It also doesn't help that this is a relatively young Bill Paxton. I guess my brain sort of defaults to kind of like well, actually, no, I'm gonna actually walk that back, because at this point he had done Aliens in Near Dark, so, you know, he had proven that he was kind of the wild man, you know? He's weirdly restrained in this role, and it's kind of odd, because it's all like, well, we know Bill Paxton is good at that flavor of going off the rails and kind of being a little... I feel like we should have been a little more scared of Bill Paxton. The movie wants us to relate to him a little bit more, but like, if he's literally taking people hostage and he has a gun up to people's heads, I feel like we should be a little more concerned that Bill Paxton might actually snap and start killing people.
Well, he already emptied his gun. He already took the bullets out, which is such a weird thing to show us. Like, I was like, obviously they want us to know that he's not actually going to hurt anyone, but why? Like, I kind of didn't think he would anyway.
Because he's a criminal with a heart of gold. He's only doing this to help his girlfriend. He never had any intention of hurting anyone.
Right.
Even though he does have an axe to grind against Tim Curry's Preacher Ray, which, fucking fair point.
Very rarely do I ever watch a movie and then I feel it might have been served a little bit better if they cast a less charismatic actor in the lead role. Because the way that this Jesse character is written, he's such a white bread, sort of nothing kind of character, and you cast Bill Paxton, he's kind of too good for this. You're left at the end wondering why there wasn't more to this character, and that's because there's really nothing on the page for him to work with, but he was so good, he was able to spin gold out of kind of nothing.
But it makes me think that the director was a bit of a mess, because I was like, oh, you let him do the scenes that way. Like, you could have directed him and been like, okay, let's take it to a bit of a darker place. But no, he was just like, great, you're so lovable. I don't know. It just seemed like there wasn't a clear vision.
There wasn't a clear direction with the script either.
No.
There was on so many levels.
I mean, you could label this movie a satire, but unfortunately its satire is pretty weak. It doesn't really have an opinion on anything other than religion is full of crooks, and it's like, okay, that's kind of like a surface level observation.
Televangelism is like I think like a huge problem, and especially the hypocrisy of the religious hucksters like that, but it's kind of an easy target as well.
Yeah.
And this movie's not really saying anything that I thought would be revolutionary, even in like the 80s at the height of televangelism. So, and like, I guess it's even got more out of control now, but you know, it's nothing that we haven't heard before, like a million other times, and then like in any number of comics or movies or what have you.
All right, so they take everyone hostage. We start getting the cops more involved in this.
We meet a guy who has, like, probably my favorite introduction of any movie. The sheriff, the chief of police, Did
either of you catch this character's name? They say his last name at one point, but I don't think anyone says his full name. His full name is incredible, by the way. The name of this Cajun good old boy sheriff here over here, his name is Sheriff Rascal LeBeau.
Nice.
No way.
They call him in from his duck
so
hunting
fitting.
trip, and like he just has like this uninterrupted monologue where in his opening lines, he goes from lamenting how hard it is to hunt ducks to, I guess I got being called in away from my vacation to deal with this hostage situation. It's great. You know, more character introductions need to be like that. Yeah.
From a duck hunt. It was great. Okay, so then he gets called in, but this whole thing, it just kind of weirded me out that they kept the cameras rolling and everything, and they kept producing the show. It felt...
The only producer in the booth was Weed Smoke and Stonewall, and when they busted in with the guns and they're all like, keep this on the air, he was all like, cool man, right on. So, they do some narrative leaps to, realistically, they would cut the feed immediately and no one would be watching this, but, you know, we have our hippy-dippy comic relief up in the booth controlling everything, who also knows how to work amazing late 80s blue screen technology with the push of a button. This was the most unbelievable thing in this movie.
Oh yeah, all the head floating and the color changing on his face and stuff.
Reverend Ray is giving this big speech at one point, and he's up in the booth going like, watch this, and he makes Tim Curry's head float off of the planet, revolve around the earth, and then come back and land on top. It's all like, look, for 1988, that's nearly impossible. That would be hours in the editing bay to pull that off.
With no green screen, yeah.
We can do that on our phones now, but
take Reverend Ray down a peg, but while we're doing that, we're going to elevate his head and throw it into space.
It was so good. Oh, I also loved how, like, the sheriff was kind of negotiating through the TV, but then through the phone and all of that. Like, I was like, I like how they don't really try to explain it. They're just like, it's working.
Well, it's live television.
Just buy it.
Yeah. I can't get through. And she presses a button and, like, so I'm like, when did you patch that all in? How did that happen? Like, they're like, just don't think about it.
He managed to convince, like, Bill Paxton, okay, we'll let the audience go. We can talk this through. He was very calm. He really talked down a lot of the more gung-ho members of the police force and the corrupt government officials or whatever the hell they were. I thought he was a pretty good hostage negotiator. Most level-headed character in the movie.
I think, you know what, you're actually right. I think the character, because at the end, who are the two that are sort of spotlit, other than, of course, Bill Paxton and his boring girlfriend, it's the stoner guy in the booth and the sheriff. They're the ones that are highlighted at the end. And part of me thinks, I know that sometimes in film you sort of like go with what's working. And I'm like, did they give him a few more scenes? Because, you know, that sheriff is pretty awesome. They're like, this is working. Let's have you go run up to the governor. Let's shoot that.
They knew early what to do with him. Not so much with Joe and Arnold.
I don't know. I feel like they gave a lot of screen time to the two wacky comic relief robbers. You know, it's like, it's the classic dichotomy of big fat guy, tiny little guy. Arnold has his own sweet little subplot with one of the angel backup singers. He's got that going on. Big Joe has like a scene with every supporting character in this movie. It's kind of amazing. He goes over, he has like an entire conversation with Tim Curry about financial advice and how to like invest his money. That was weird.
He has this nice little moment with Annie Potts, which I appreciate because he's got as much as I do, he's got a crush on Annie Potts.
Oh yeah, she's adorable in this movie. I mean, she's got the comedy dial turned up to 10. She's great as sort of the preacher's wife, partner in crime.
Well, not really. Tim Curry is obviously a huckster. I would say like Annie Potts' character, what is her name? Darla? Not only like a fervent true believer, but she also has ambitions to be like a Vegas act. So like she like fully gives herself to the cause, but she also wants to put on a nice dress and dance around for it.
I mean, I loved it. I had a crush on Annie Potts after this movie because her Delilah was smoking those little outfits.
I fell in love with her as soon as she had like, Ghostbusters, what do you want? That kind of sassy attitude. And then seeing her slink around in that Torch Song dress, like, oof. Yeah, that was checking a lot of boxes for me.
I do love that. I love that they've got this early guest on their show is Brian Thompson as this big Adonis football guy, and they conscript him into being Samson in this musical number that they start and seemingly finish, but then they never unchain him, and he is chained to the wall for the entirety of the movie, including when they're blowing the building up. I thought something horrible was going to happen to that guy. Luckily, he gets out of there.
Me too. Like, I completely forgot he was tied up, and I was like, oh shit, are we going to have like a casualty in this wacky comedy?
So they start letting some of the hostages go. This leads to, I think, one of the funniest moments in the movie. They let the audience go. They let hostages go in waves. And then Bill Paxton's like, all right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to let the band go, and we're going to let the male backup singers go. We're going to keep the female singers. Now, all of the members of the orchestra are black men. For some, like, when you saw that early on in the movie, like, okay, that's building to something. I don't know what, but that's oddly specific, so that has to be on purpose. So when Bill Paxton says, okay, these people can go, all 5 of the orchestra members beeline to the door, and then the white male backup singers stand up. It's like, we're not leaving until everyone goes, and then all of the black men turn around with this look on, are you fucking serious on their face? It was great. Good comic beat. That was funny.
Yeah.
And how they just like fanned out around their instruments to look back. It was a good moment.
Because it is, because you get immediately looking at these men, it's all like, okay, we're in a small town, we're not buying into this mega church bullshit, this is really just a paycheck.
A gig's a gig.
Yes, exactly. I don't get paid enough for this shit.
What I clued into, you have this, what is it, like a 5-piece band in this, and yet the entire soundtrack of this movie is mostly synthesizer. Like,
yes.
My only thing about synthesizer is wonderful as an accompaniment to maybe some orchestral stuff or as part of a larger piece. But if your entire movie's only soundtrack is done through synthesizer, it sounds so cheesy. And I know you gotta save a buck, but holy fuck, that's what made the 80s so fucking rough for me.
Weirdly enough, another Coen Brothers connection here. I noticed in the opening credits that the music was composed by Carter Burwell, who is the Coens' normal composer. All I can say is he clearly got better. Got better with not one of his classic, because he did the soundtrack to Fargo, he did the soundtrack to Carol, 3 Billboards. Like, he's a great composer.
No way.
He is, but yeah, this clearly was some growing pains for him.
There's so many connections, man. This is blowing my mind.
Weird, yeah, I know.
Oh, weird. But in the 80s, right? It's 88. It's like synth, like height of the synth. So it is very like indicative of a moment in time.
They wanted to put in a lot of church organ sounding music to go along with the aesthetic that was going on there, but yeah, I agree with you. Did not work. Quite bad musical score.
So what happens next?
I don't know what the hell happens next. Jim Bob
has this moment with like the
said...
fucking Burt Reynolds twins, because like he recognizes them as like this Nashville act that cost him a gig at some honky-tonk bar or whatever.
Another plot thread that goes nowhere. There's a lot of these. There's really a lot of these.
Yeah, he makes them take off their boots. Just to shoot them? Those $300 boots. Oh my god. There's so many little things, like you were talking about, even like the financial advice moment, and then the getting stiffed from his band performance, and like shooting the boots, and all of this stuff that just goes nowhere. And you're like, why? It's kind of cute and funny, but why is it happening? My favorite of these kind of like cutaway things was when they would cut to the room full of the old ladies watching the broadcast and weighing in. I was like, I giggled from them twice. So I think that that's a big win for this movie.
Yeah, it's very Truman Show-esque.
Very Truman Show-esque.
Yeah.
And like, that's fine.
Point.
Even in the slightly better version of this movie in my head, yeah, of course, if it's like a televangelist thing, of course you're cutting away to the average Joe in their living room doing color commentary while watching this.
They probably didn't have enough room for that many extras because they cram so many people in every one of these sets watching television. It's like there's only like 4 TV sets in the entire town.
Always a family of 12.
Yeah,
exactly.
And there's that weird moment where it feels like like Bill Paxton's gonna take over the church.
Yeah, that's...
And they're like, that man's a born preacher.
Yeah, there's a thing. When the movie runs out of plot, it will just cut back to either Bill Paxton or Tim Curry addressing the camera. A lot of monologues in this. There's this one sort of like tempted by sin moment where Bill Paxton, he's like saying all the bullshit about the church, and then slimy Tim Curry comes in, starts like massaging his back, is all like, you're like a perfect preacher, you should do this. Where is this coming from?
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, goes nowhere, is dropped, goes nowhere, never mentioned again. A lot of that going on here.
Yeah, Bill Paxton spending the whole time exposing the hypocrisy of Tim Curry, saying he's no real man of God. He's got private planes and like a house in Bermuda or something like that. And you people, you don't need this kind of televangelism in your life. And Tim Curry's like, well done, my boy. You should be a televangelist. It's like, that's exactly what he's telling people, like, to get away from. How are you fucking seducing him away from his point here?
But then Bill Paxton kind of like, it looks like he's into it for a second. Like, it looks like he has to think about it. And I was like, I don't understand or buy
If they had,
that.
introduced the fact that Bill Paxton is, actually religious and is, a church-going people, and he has this animosity against Tim Curry because he feels like he's perverted the truth of what religion is. If they had introduced that angle, that might have been a thing, but again, these characters aren't terribly fleshed out the way you really want them to be to create a satisfying conclusion.
Even Bill Paxton's girlfriend, she's kind of just along on the heist for the ride, even though she seems very uncomfortable with it. And yeah, when she notices that Tim Curry and his wife are kind of bickering about the roles in their marriage, she nudges the camera guy and says, hey, make sure you're getting this. There's more, there's cracks in the facade here. You make sure you catch that. I would have appreciated if one of the other two gunmen, either Joe or Arnold, the ones who seem to be having these bonding moments with the people running the church, kind of what we're doing here is morally wrong. I'm kind of not with Bill Paxton anymore on this. I'm being seduced by, it's sort of
That's a great idea, yeah.
It's a reverse Stockholm syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great, and it would have been more interesting, a more focused movie. I keep going back to that word, but a more focused movie might have had, that's a great idea, Jameson.
I'm more than just a pretty face.
There you go. Suggesting the idea that you start off with this team, but then slowly and surely Tim Curry, because he's so good at this, he's so good at talking and convincing people to do things, he convinces Joe Bob or one of the other ones to come over to his side.
The two dumb guys or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, that could have been really interesting.
Or the fucking choir girl that has some kind of connection with Arnold, she's starting to lure him to why don't you put the gun down, sweetie, or something. Instead, the opposite seems to kind of happen. There's that one, this was their attempt to be fucking artistic, where Arnold finds a devil costume backstage and he's wearing it for the rest of the movie. And then he's he's down from the bleachers where everything's red and he's talking up to the choir girl who's in the bleachers and there's the cloud pattern behind her. It's and they're having their fucking Romeo and Juliet balcony moment there, but it's a little on the nose, but they're also not quite saying anything in that moment.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't really actually get anything through. And then it just seems like they might not like each other. He's more concerned with his performance than he is on whether or not she likes him. I don't know. The whole thing didn't really work for me, but I did love his tiny little body in a devil costume running around the stage.
With the cape and everything, yeah.
He is the smallest little man. I don't know who this actor is, but it looks like they got an 11-year-old boy.
It doesn't help that his first outfit we see him in is a jacket that's 5 times too big for him.
The devil costume is the only costume that he wears that actually fits him in the movie, so I don't know what that choice was. But, yeah.
I love that they have this massive budget and they have these crazy sets and they have flames that come up from the floor, but their devil costume looks like Ratchet. It's just a piece of shit from the dollar store. It is the worst costume.
The devil has a cape, but it's not an impressive billowy cape. It looks like he's wearing a Daredevil costume. Not like the superhero devil, like someone who would sit on a motorcycle and jump over a bunch of buses. Can I just say, this movie gives me one of my personal favorite flavors of Tim Curry performances, in that it's Tim Curry trying desperately hard to do an American accent throughout the course of a feature-length movie. I was just waiting for the moment where he starts talking in his regular accent and it's revealed that he's more of a huckster than we reveal. No, he's meant to be an American. God, I love it when Tim Curry tries to do this, because he can't fucking do it at all. And people keep making him try to do it.
Especially with the sort of like southern, like the Louisiana drawl that they tried to do with him. When he's talking about money, he can't say investments to save his fucking life. I was like, and there goes the accent.
So you steal all this money and just spend it. It's just plain foolish. Why don't you try to save your money? Invest it. Make it work. You know, if you have any kind of a cash flow, it's not that difficult to establish a financial base from which to work. There's always a way to amortize your losses.
What do you think about mutual funds and IRAs?
Well, there's pluses and there's minuses.
Oh man, I was hoping it would do that too, though, where he would like be like, "Well, fine," and then like the real accent would come through. That's another missed opportunity in this movie.
But like where he fucking shines is like those moments where he's doing his sermon. I see Jesus before me and the devil behind me.
Oh yeah,
you cast Tim Curry for those scenes.
Look, it's not something that I'm going to probably return to at all, but like casting Tim Curry in 1988 at like the height of his popularity in his career as a televangelist, fucking masterstroke. That is genius. That is genius casting, and it works perfectly. Because when he's talking about hellfire and God and Satan and all that, that is peak fucking Curry. That was great.
That fucking opening scene where he's in space. What Kaz sees when he closes his eyes.
That is how the movie opens. The movie opens with him in space. I love it because it's like a bad green screen, and he's talking about Earth. My favorite part is there's a graphic of like an asteroid going by. He stops his monologue and goes, "Ha, look at that!" And it's
God made this all in 7 days. Wrote in pen and ink, didn't raise a thing. Whoa, look at...
Okay, one of my other favorite green screen moments with him is when there's like some image of space behind him and like with a big white dot, and he basically is just like pointing to it and he's like, "That's my boss."
That's set up with like the two producers in the production room, and Stonewall's all like cutting the God commercial, and the other guy's all like, "Don't blaspheme." He's all like, "I'm cutting to the God commercial," and then he hits a button, and we just see a monitor in the back with Tim Curry.
Go God commercial. This is my boss.
And then it cuts to another Bill Paxton scene. He's like, "No, I want to see that commercial, damn it. I want to see the full commercial of that."
The full commercial, please.
The other problem is that they clearly shot a lot of different segments for this televangelist TV show, sermon, whatever's going on. They shot like a segment where like Annie Potts is talking to the camera. There's another great bit that they completely bury is Annie Potts starts selling an illustrated Bible with color illustrations. It's like, let's see some more of that. Like, open that up. Let's see some more of that. But no, they cut it. It's just a throwaway joke and they cut it away. But like, show us the full version of that. Show us the full interview with the footballer. The thing is like, it's all scenes of that are intercut with getting to know Bill Paxton and his friends and like the setup of the hostage situation. And then they keep interspersing that with scenes from the sermon and everything. But they're clearly not in the right order. Because Annie Potts will be in one outfit, and then she'll be in another outfit, and then she'll be back to the first outfit again. And it's really messy editing, it's really obvious, and it's just, if you had just shown us all of that, and not cut around any of it, we would have gotten to know these villains, quote-unquote, a little bit more, just by showing us their bullshit.
Or, like, highlight the robbers and their goings-on and their plot, and just have the actual televangelism on TVs in the background. And we kind of get like hints of it because most of these scenes are just little isolated bits, and then eventually we get to the studio and then we see like the whole production of it.
See, I don't agree with that. I don't really care about the robbers, though. I don't really care about them.
Well, you're supposed to.
I feel like if you introduce them and we find out what's going on in their lives after they've taken everyone hostage, that's all we need. To endear ourselves to these characters, because they're likable performances. I don't know who the actor is who plays Jim Bob, but clearly the camera loves him because they keep cutting to him all the time.
I mean, you can't miss him.
He is
He's a large man.
Yes.
I will say, like,
is
one of my
big.
favorite lines early in the movie was between, we should stop calling her Bill Paxton's girlfriend. Her name is Claire.
Played by Linda Kozlovsky of Jenica's favorite movie, Crocodile Dundee.
She's great in this. Not a good character, I think.
She's fine. She's playing the role of girlfriend.
The boring girlfriend.
This woman, Linda Kozlowski, like, she was actually married to Paul Hogan in real life, and I looked up her film career.
Your eyes just lit up when he said that.
She's only ever really played the girlfriend. She's never really had a role that stretched her as an actor, because she's in all of the Crocodile Dundee sequels. She's in this movie. She's in a couple of other things. And then she kind of just stopped acting. Probably because she was tired of playing this role.
Yeah, she's just bored to death of her own characters. She's like, I can't do it one more day. I would just like to say, as a little button on the Crocodile Dundee thing, I did Google the synopsis in our little break, and the movie is actually about nothing.
That's what I thought. That's why I've never seen it, because that movie appears to not have a plot. So I've never bothered with it.
It literally is a journalist goes to Australia to interview a famous poacher, which is like, that's terrible. I didn't know he was a poacher.
That's awful. We don't want that.
And then she's so taken with him, and her article goes crazy that she brings him to the States, and everyone just has a big old laugh about him trying to be an Australian in the States. It's about nothing. Okay, sorry. Let's go back to...
Set your watches. We're on a tangent now.
Sorry.
I think the problem here is I've always conflated, because I've never seen it, I've always conflated Crocodile Dundee and the Crocodile Hunter into kind of one character. But as what you're saying here, Crocodile Dundee is not the lovable, I'm going to wrestle this croc and I'm going to give him a hug type thing. He literally kills crocodiles.
Crocodile Dundee is more of a hunter than the Crocodile Hunter.
Think about that.
What a paradox. This movie, I think we've said it so many times, like, it's so close to actually being a good movie. And the fact that we can think of all the ways to make it better is actually a pretty decent compliment. to
Sure,
it,
yeah.
I would say. I don't hate that I watched it.
That's pretty much my reaction to Man of Steel.
There you go. I was gonna say this movie kept reminding me of Scream, whichever Scream it is,
Scream.
where she goes to university and she's in that like weird Greek play.
Oh, that's Scream 2. You said Scream 3 over the
2?
chat, and I'm all like, that... I'm gonna need her to explain this, because I don't see... That Scream 3 is the one where they're, like, making the movie based on Scream. Yeah, no, Scream 2 is the one where she's at college and she's in, like, the weird Greek thing.
And they like string someone up like that, and then they actually kill him.
Just like Samson, yeah.
The footballer Samson. With the bad wig.
So, should we talk about how this movie loses its goddamn mind at one point?
Yes.
What do you think is the tipping point where this movie completely loses the plot and then blows up? I mean, I have a theory. Bill Paxton and his robbers who are holding everyone hostage and stuff, they kind of spin their wheels for a bit. This movie does kind of start going in circles in a bit, where it's all like, okay, we're not really advancing anything. And
Yeah,
there's a moment
they never
where...
wanted to, hold people hostage. They just kind of happened upon this. They have no real plan, and they have no real exit. How do you get out of this?
Speaking of abrupt costume changes, there's a moment where Claire's is had enough of Jesse's bullshit, and she's all like, we gotta get out of here, we gotta stop this now, and kind of apropos of nothing, Bill Paxton just goes, hey, you wanna get married? We got, we're holding a preacher hostage right here, and then it cuts away to, like, the police doing their fucking business for, like, less than a minute. When it cuts back, Linda Kozlowski is in a full wedding dress. Her hair has been done. She has, like, flowers and stuff. All of her makeup has been touched up.
A perfectly tailored wedding dress.
Here Comes the Bride starts playing, even though there's no band anymore.
It's a stretch of the imagination just to assume that they already had a wedding dress. For what reason, I don't know. Just, like, in their... Because, there's big production numbers. They have, like, costume changes and stuff. I don't know why they would have a wedding dress as part of that, but whatever. They have... It's enough to just to just believe that they would have a wedding dress there. It is far too much for her to come out looking the way she does. She looks radiant. It's like, when did they fucking have time to fucking style her hair and shit?
Yeah, I mean, Like,
Look, she does look radiant.
and like fucking like Tim Curry, he's still like the minister, so we got a priest here. You know, I've heard of a shotgun wedding, but this is ridiculous.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for joining in. This has been the fuck is that? No.
So, and also Bill Paxton's tux. Like a gray and black, like super perfect 80s style tux. Like this church is, I guess, yeah, we've established they have a crazy great costume department. Let's just say that.
I guess there's a musical number, Chastity or something, so they just had the costumes
Marrying
lying
Jesus.
around or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in a completely unbelievable and unrelatable to our current time and life that we're currently living in right now, this armed militia of violent rednecks show up and start getting violent and start shooting things up. And it's all like, I can't relate to this as a this doesn't happen in 2021.
Yeah.
Goddamn QAnon shows up because like this whole like hostage situation has been broadcast live. They call in like the governor, not I guess the governor of that fucking state, but he calls in the National Guard. Sheriff LeBeau doesn't let them storm in. He's going to go in himself and apprehend Bill Paxton because, you know, he recognizes that he's a good guy. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. I can probably de-escalate the situation. But then, yes, the militia shows up and all hell breaks loose.
I mean, it's kind of funny watching these dumb hicks run around and blow stuff up. There's like a woman and like her son Bubba in the woods, and they have like a rocket launcher, and they keep like missing the church and blowing things up. I thought that was kind of funny. So, hold on to this, Bubba. Ah, you dang
Wind
idiot.
on it.
Bubba, hold this 81mm for you, Mama. You goof, I didn't tell you to fire it. Oh, hell, you done shot it plumb over the building.
When the militia was getting all on in their trucks and quads and stuff and headed out to the church, there was this one guy who was like, this is just like now.
There was a line that made me do a double take that was kind of confusing. There's two cops outside of the mega church and they're talking to each other, and one of them is saying like, yeah, I just heard over the radio they're gonna like helicopter bomb like the church and everything, and the other cop goes, aw man, they're just kids in there.
Damn it, this ain't Philadelphia. They're just kids in there.
Who the fuck is he talking about? There's no fucking kids in there. They're all grown adults. There's not a single young person in the building.
I guess, you know, was it an old cop?
He's talking about the lovebirds, I guess, but like, there's no fucking kids in there. They're all in their 30s.
I mean, I just think like after these cops spent like most of the day saying like, oh, we got to get in there and rescue the preacher and take out these sumbitches. I think after Big Joe's had his wonderful sing-along song, You're a Policeman, he won over the cops, and now they're sympathetic to the cops.
Yeah.
Every fucking cop loved that musical number.
What was with that?
When the hours seem long and going rough, when the pay seems small and criminals are tough, square your shoulders, call their bluff, let them be the ones to cry enough. You're a policeman.
All the cops are just like tapping their hands. They're like super
Just
into
like
this
real life.
guy. I want to backtrack to like back when they first started broadcasting the hostages, and the cops were like, "That looks like your brother. Hey, is that your brother?" That little moment where they kind of thought that Bill Paxton was related.
You're
to the
right,
cop,
they
and
did
then it
mention
went
that.
nowhere.
But why?
That's another thing that went nowhere.
Yeah, the sheriff was like, we have to find out who this Jesse guy is or whatever. And then he like left, and then it was never touched again. But I was like waiting for the reveal of, that's my brother in there from one of the cops or something. Never happened. Yeah, so the militia come in, the fucking military has been called in, and there's like Bubba and his mom shooting rockets.
Escalating things from the background. Yeah, because the militia don't really like blow anything up. It's all pipe bombs and AR-14s and everything.
Little things like that, yeah.
During this utter chaos with the building blowing up and the sets falling down, I mean, part of the reason why I love the production design of this movie, it's gaudy and grotesque with like gold pillars and stuff. The other reason I love it is that they get to blow it all up at the end. So, I mean, like, if at the very least this was a fun movie to work on, but during all of, like, this chaos and, you know, the Reverend running away, our sweet young newlyweds get horrifically gunned down and broadcast on TV, and, you know, I'll just say it, spoiler alert, it's a scheme that they've cooked up with the hippie producer, but, I mean, the way that this is shot, and because everything leading up to this moment this is the part of the movie where it starts taking itself really seriously.
Yeah.
So that's the tone. When you watch this, it is a good fake out because I think, I speak for all three of us, we all thought that they were dead.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In the chat, it was like, the fuck?
I mean, that whole assault was just so chaotic and visceral. And, like, you really, like, I didn't know, I assumed, like, oh, they're gonna get out alive. And then they get gunned down. I was horrified by it. And then, you know, at the end when it's revealed that, oh, they faked the whole thing, I was mortified again. How dare this movie make me feel this way?
I would have respected the movie more if they stayed dead, frankly. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's more of a bold choice.
Me too, yeah. Because at this point, we've been through it all. Like, okay, fine, you gunned them down, fine. You know, they just really wanted to get the line in about knocking her up and starting a farm.
Because it's kind of, again, it's a different movie that's sort of playing with this idea. It's all like, well, we have, on the one side here, we have this form of evil with Tim Curry who's swindling people out of their money. On the other hand, we have this evil where it's reactionary people with guns bursting in here and threatening to kill people to get their way. Both sides are sort of undone by the faceless horde that just swarms in and just like destroys them without thinking. It's a chaotic ending, but I can imagine a movie where it ends on the sheriff dejected and defeated sitting there just going, the hell was the point of any of this? Again, a very sort of Coen Brothers aesthetic to end on, but no, we have to shoehorn a happy ending here. And they get away with just enough money. Just specifically the money that her grandmother lost. They didn't end up stealing anything else. They just got that.
They destroyed a building.
Yeah.
His church gets blown up, but outside of that, Tim Curry doesn't really get that much of a comeuppance.
No.
Like, you feel like...
Yeah, he's just dusty.
For as big of a jerk as they play him up to be, he'd get like a little bit more. Like, they should have left him with nothing, but it's all like, he can probably rebuild. He's definitely insured. He's smart. He knows about investing, so, like, we know that's happening.
He gets punched out by the chief of police. Does his wife leave him for Big Joe or something? Okay.
It's implied that she's leaving him for Big Joe, yeah.
Yeah. I think the missed opportunity with a live camera is getting him, catching him. They kind of do it, but, like, there's no he confesses his evil plot really explicitly, and it's accidentally caught, and then he's outed himself, and then he is diminished, and Darla takes over the church, which is, I think, kind of what it's setting up to be with Big Joe.
At least she's authentic about it, yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, Jennica, they almost get there. You mentioned early on when they're filming Tim Curry and Annie Potts without their knowledge. They're building that up to this moment where it's all, oh, we're going to catch them saying something. They don't really do that.
Yeah, at one point she even says, I know you're fooling around on me, you're an adulterer. And Tim Curry just says to the camera, like, I must confess, I am a sinner, as we all are. And he fucking gets himself out of that bind.
You know, I guess that is meant to be the turning point where it's revealed to all of the audience, oh, Reverend Ray's no good and everything, but it kind of comes off really flat. Yeah, it's kind of revealed that he's fooling around with one of the backup singers, but it's like, that's not a character. We don't even know who that woman's name is, so...
I really did think that the footballer guy would have died in that siege.
It would have been funnier,
I mean, first of all, because he's fucking chained up as the building's falling down around him. But also, like, I thought that maybe would have been, like, where everyone comes to their senses, where this guy who really did buy into this and was a true believer, now the actions of these hucksters and the people who didn't look into this too far enough, now a man is dead because of this. There's no really something to snap people out of this.
Give a few more scenes to the footballer. Give him a behind-the-scenes thing where he's revealed to kind of be a misogynist or some sort of sin. Give him a sin. And then have a pillar fall on him when he's Samson. And then that can maybe be like the moment of escalation. Bill Paxton and his team don't mean to kill anybody. They go into this planning not to kill anyone, but then Brian Thompson accidentally dies, and then all of a sudden, oh, we've escalated things now. We didn't mean for this character to die. I think we've proven there's a myriad different ways you can rewrite this. It's a really good example. I mean, they always say, don't remake good movies, remake movies that don't quite work. Someone could totally take this and do something with it now.
This movie could totally benefit from a remake. Like maybe a way more focused remake.
I said it now in the age of Twitter. You could say something really interesting about this.
Oh yeah, well, like all those Facebook Live crimes and things that are tragically happening now.
Or make it a Broadway musical. Because, as we say, it's kind of theatrical if theaters ever reopen.
At least so that fucking end credits song can come back.
Oh yeah, we have an awesome end credits song.
Once again, we're blessed with another movie with an amazing title track.
So let's all give a preacher
You know, I was gonna say, like, there is a famous old number called Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition. That is not the song they used for the credits. The Dixie Chicks covered it pretty recently, actually. Was that song for this movie, do you think? Or did they just find it?
I think so. I think it was written for this song. I didn't recognize who the singer was. Like, when it started, I thought it was Randy Newman, because I always assume it's Randy Newman, but,
He does everything. Yeah. Well, everyone Google Praise the Lord and Pass the Ammunition, because it's actually a pretty funny song.
And then Google Pass the Ammo and Praise the Lord, because that's a toe-tapping song as well.
Was there anything else, before we wrap up here, was there anything else about the movie that we wanted to mention? Any jokes, any moments we liked that we didn't bother to talk about?
I wrote down another touchdown for Jesus. That was a fun line.
Was that a Tim Curry line?
That was the footballer line, I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, major testimony from a major star of the football field. Another touchdown for Jesus. Praise the Lord.
Or no. Maybe it was Tim Curry reacting to the footballer.
I got 2 lines from Annie Potts here, and they're both totally different. And I just want to praise her and her performance for these. One of her lines is when she's... Oh, maybe this wasn't from her. They're talking about like how the preacher was an adulterer, and maybe it was a cop who said, let me just put it this way, the Crocodile Dundee ain't safe around that man.
That was the news reporter that you pointedly said you did not like his performance.
I didn't like that newsman.
However, a former employee of the Tower of Bethlehem has confided to this reporter that, quote, the Crocodile ain't safe around that man.
As a guy who's been in broadcasting school, I think you got to project in a little bit more in your delivery if you want to be a newsman. And this guy was very monotone. One line of hers I absolutely do know was hers was when the sheriff got into the church, the gun, like he's going to face Bill Paxton 101. Annie Potts says, "Hello, Sheriff. Nice of you to come," in a really unnecessarily creepy way of saying it.
Yes. I clocked that too, and I was like, oh, here's like another leading thing that will go nowhere in this movie. I love that. I have a part where she was in her rant about how she's seen the money go to Africa and so on. She makes a very specific point about how they've screwed over contractors and her cousin.
A lot of cousins in this movie.
Well, it was the South.
I mean, I could just make a soundboard of all of the amazing Tim Curry lines here. Like, I love all of his monologues. I love when he's all like, I can feel Jesus, and I can feel Satan. And he was flapping his arms as he was saying Satan is.
Satan, the animal, is at my back. I can feel his claws. I can feel his scales and his flapping wings. I can feel his great snake-like tail wrapping round my legs. I can feel Satan trying to drag me down to hell.
Tim Curry is a televangelist. I'm surprised more people didn't try that flavor. I think that might be it. I think we might have talked about everything that we talk about past the ammo. So, Jennica, thank you so much for coming on and watching this weird fucking movie with us. Oh, I forgot, this is the part of the show where we ask Jennica Jameson, do you think you would recommend Pass the Ammo to a friend? Would you tell people to check this out?
Yeah. Yes, I would, actually. I think it's a hot mess. I think it's pretty entertaining. And I think that it has more wins than losses, even though you leave it feeling a little bit stupid. I would still
like stupider, like it's killed some brain cells while you were watching.
Like a little more stupid. Yeah. Normally, I think if you go through an hour and a half of not being able to connect the dots, you feel a little dumb at the end. So I think, in spite of that feeling, I would still recommend it. Tim Curry is a televangelist. Annie Potts.
Yeah, you kind of took the words right out of my mouth. I would recommend this because the parts that I enjoyed outweigh the parts that I didn't. I thought the early stuff with the heist and once they take the crowd hostage, I thought that was, that's when the movie really started clicking along and I was really invested in it. The swerves in it are really unpredictable and have to be seen to be believed. To touch on what we were saying earlier, this would benefit from a remake or just like another rewrite. I would not be opposed if like this movie got remade. I would probably be curious and I would check it out.
Now, my question via remake, I mean, we could do this with every character, but I'll just choose like one specific one. Who would you cast in a remake of this? Who is our modern day Tim Curry? Do we have
that's
one?
Unfair.
Ooh, brutal. Well, in the Vancouver theater production, Kaz, you would play the televangelist.
Well, thank you. And I'll do my best British person trying to do an American accent voice that I can. Wow.
Yeah. It's either going to be an unknown or it's going to be someone out of left field that you would never consider in a million years and would actually just knock it out of the park.
Yeah, I don't think about it all that often. Someone weird, I'm just imagining my favorite comedic kind of sinister actor. I don't know if this is a weird left field choice, but for some reason I kind of want to see Jason Mantzoukas. I think he would be good.
Good choice.
Or to keep it as a Brit doing a terrible accent, maybe someone like Richard Ayoade could take a crack at it, maybe, but that might be interesting.
Tom Hiddleston, maybe?
Maybe Tom Hiddleston.
Ooh, Tom Hiddleston's an interesting choice, yeah. He hasn't done a lot of broad comedy, but I'd be really interested to see him take a crack at that. Oh, or this is someone who's maybe a little bit older, but along that lines, Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, or Kevin Kline, yeah.
Age that roll up a little bit, and that could be... Anyway...
I just want to say this is very similar to the HBO series, or I kept getting reminded of the HBO series Righteous Gemstones, if you've heard of it. It is a spoof of the televangelist family that's just a mess, and they're horrible people. It's really funny. Danny McBride is hilarious.
That segues nicely into... Jennica, thank you for being a guest on this show.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything going on in your life that you want to plug, or forgetting about that, is there anything that you've seen recently that you recommend people check out?
Okay, well, I really enjoyed, like I said, that the Righteous Gemstones. It's thematically relevant to this movie. Also, I really enjoyed The Flight Attendant. It's another
with,
HBO
Kelly Cuoco, right?
sort of a spy series. Yeah, it's a ton of fun. And for where I'm at in my life right now, I really need TV to be enjoyable. So it was a really fun show to watch. And in terms of things, personal things, I have a podcast with my husband called Raised by the Movies, where we talk about the formative movies that we watched when we were kids and our parents were doing whatever they were doing rather than taking care of us. And yeah, that's we haven't launched it yet, but it's going to launch this month. Very exciting. We're starting with the Disney Renaissance films, so very excited about that. And he has a podcast called Friendless, so you should check that out too.
Yeah, he's got a podcast called Friendless. I was on an episode of it, no big deal. That's great, because I remember last summer you guys were talking about that. I didn't know you were that far along with it, so I love, you know me, I love me some movie podcasts.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you guys did an episode of Friendless where you were talking about the first 3 Batman movies. And I'm like, God, it's just I wish you hadn't done that, because invite me on the show. I can talk about Batman Forever for 2 hours straight without stop.
Okay.
Kaz, you missed a golden opportunity that I could talk about Batman Forever.
I could talk about Batman Forever. Full stop. There we go. Very excited. Everyone make sure you check that out. And I will be sure to link that in our Instagram when that comes out. People can check that out now. Real quick, you got anything going on? What are you watching right now?
Just last night, I watched the Trial of the Chicago 7, which I had wanted to see for a while because it's been way too long since I saw a legal drama. It's been way too long since I saw an Aaron Sorkin movie, so I figured I'll just kill 2 birds with one stone there. Very good movie, kind of topical with the times as well with this film. And also, it's been way too long since I've absolutely hated a character as much as I hated Frank Langella's Judge character. Holy fuck. You hate that guy from the opening statements of the trial. Great work. Great. Ugh.
Wow.
He would certainly find me in contempt of court, I'll tell you that much.
Well, great. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I thought that movie sucked, but I'm glad that you liked it. I'm glad that you can get enjoyment out of something that I did not like. Very cool.
All right. Jeez.
It's fine. I just thought that movie was super overwritten. I thought my main gripe with it is that I watched it, and then as I was watching, I'm like, I'm suspicious. And then I went,
oh, it's not totally historically accurate.
And I hate that. I hate movies that bill themselves as this is the true story, and then you read it and it's all not only did this shit not happen, but the actual stuff that happened is more interesting.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
And I hate it when that shit happens, so I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
What I will say, if you want to see a good version of the Trial of the Chicago 7 and you have Amazon Prime, check out the Steve McQueen movie Mangrove, which is also a court-based story about peaceful protesters getting put on trial and then railroaded by the system. All of these people were all black, so it's kind of more of a hard-hitting, serious movie that's a little less show-offy in Hollywood. So, Jameson, I didn't mean to shit all over your recommendation. I honestly didn't.
Tim Curry is overweighted.
All right, welcome to the last episode of The Fuck Is This?
I don't want to be on the podcast episode where beef begins.
Cool.
Thanks so
Jennica,
much for having me, you
so
guys.
Well, we'll let you go, Jennica.
fight,
Kaz
Mom
and
and
I are going
Dad.
to stick around here for a little bit longer.
Okay.
That was Pass the Ammo, directed by David Beaird. If you liked the show, please check us out on Instagram at theFistThisPodcast.com. I always say .com, it's not .com, it's Instagram. Fuck! The F is This Podcast. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at the F_is_this at Twitter. And now, with our closing catchphrase, Jameson Rafter.
Don't matter where you're at on the outside, depends where you are on the inside. That was said by the fucking hippie producer. Fuck it, fine. They're gonna butt fuck the preacher on TV.
Yay! There we go. That's the end.
Wow, here I was trying to be poignant and everything, but like, man.
That was perfect, thank you.